The following podcast contains spoilers for Blade Trinity and Fight Club.
Welcome to a world that only exists at night, where heroes are found in the strangest of places. A world populated by forgotten classics, video nasties, and the head of their time. Take a look with me at misunderstood geniuses and those who believe themselves to be so. This is the world of the Midnight Screening.
That's right, everyone. Welcome to the premiere episode of Midnight Screening. Today's film is the incomparable 1999 David Fincher classic Fight Club. I'm your host, Nathan. With me is my good friends Ty.
What up?
And Josh.
Yo.
So, boys, you get the drill. We're talking about cult classics here. We're talking about great midnight movies, if you will. Fight Club.
Which technically this podcast's already over though, right? Because we can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Very true. We're nearly breaking the first two rules.
It's like 50% of the rules of Fight Club.
Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. We'll catch you all next time. That was Fight Club.
That was a credit music joke. That's what that was supposed to be. What is our spoiler-free?
I'd hope it is.
Yeah, what's our our personal relationship with this movie? I guess.
Spoiler free.
Yeah, just briefly.
Brief spoiler free. Gotcha.
Okay.
I get that with this movie in particular, that's quite difficult, which we will definitely get into.
But the movie has been out for 20 odd years, so...
Yeah,
22 years this November, yeah.
Just in case someone hasn't seen it.
And is listening to a podcast about it.
You'd be surprised, Josh, you really would.
Yeah, I've seen worse, okay? I've seen people do worse.
Okay. I mean, to sum the film up, I think it is both the most confusing film I've ever seen, but every time I watch it, somehow it gets more confusing whilst also making more sense.
Very true.
Yeah, I noticed with this rewatch, there was a lot more things I noticed, both in the way of oh, that explains that, but also in ways where I was like, that is nonsense. Why is that in this movie?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard, without going to spoilers, there are definitely a lot of times where a question gets answered, it just raises another question, you know?
Yeah. There's also times where a question just straight up never gets answered, and no matter how many times you watch this movie, it just doesn't... I still don't know the answer. It's really annoying. I don't want to know the answer, but, you know...
To be fair, I think that's part of the design, right? They just don't want you to know the answer.
Yeah.
Because they're just, you know...
But some films, they don't want you to know an answer, but you still figure it out anyway, and it kind of ruins the mystique. So David Fincher and the writers have actually done a fantastic job, pretty much making sure that no one figures out this answer.
Yeah, it almost requires a rewatch, and I don't think it's a spoiler to say there's a big twist. People know there's a big twist, but
it's like Inception. It demands a rewatch.
On that scale, it's more of an Inception than a Sixth Sense, which you watch it the second time and suddenly it's oh,
it all makes sense.
I get it. This everything pieced together perfectly because of that one piece of information. With this film, I'm I guess, kinda, sure.
Every new piece of information makes you think that there should be more information, so you have to rewatch it to find that new information again.
Which is definitely on theme, given that the narrator is a paranoid schizophrenic.
Insomniac.
IKEA addicted, Linux loving. Yep. There's a wee penguin joke for you.
Yeah.
Yep. I was gonna bring that up, right? Let's immediately start talking about the film itself. The penguin.
Mm-hmm.
The penguin that says in a really chirpy voice, "Slade!"
I forgot there was a penguin in this movie until my rewatch.
Really?
And that might be my favourite thing. I love the penguin so much.
He literally appeared for 10 seconds. Is that
just, I have no idea.
I don't think they clarify what gender the penguin is.
A CGI penguin that later in the movie becomes Helena Bonham Carter.
Yep.
Does Helena Bonham Carter temporarily become a penguin? That's the real question.
That whole scene is just brilliant to me. The way it's about finding your inner peace and your inner cave and whatever, and your spirit animal, and then he's just a penguin. He just dreams up a penguin.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's probably, if you do enough Googling, some sort of deep down metaphor or meaning behind that penguin. But I think I'm going to live the rest of my life just understanding that they felt like adding a penguin in.
Yeah, I refuse to ever Google symbolism of penguins.
You got to think of that. You go to your cave, your very special place. Okay, you go to a very cold place. Cool. You find your spirit animal, penguin. Now, if you ask any person what their spirit animal is, they're gonna choose some. Any guy's gonna choose something cool. You know, like spirit animal, gorilla, lion, stuff like that. It's just like, oh yeah, penguin.
I'm a moth.
Where's your spirit world? Oh, a tropical beach somewhere. No, ice cave. Why?
Can I have a dusty closet?
You can have a dusty closet, Josh, but
Thank
a
you.
dusty closet's better than an ice cave.
Does the
warm.
Dusty Closet also have a penguin in it?
It's no, it's a moth.
I mean, the penguin can come visit if the penguin wants to come visit, you know? I don't discriminate against flightless birds.
I mean, the emus are kicking it regularly. This is off to a great. We've been talking for like 5 minutes about a penguin.
We've only talked about the penguins. We haven't even explained what Fight Club's about. Yeah.
I mean, Joe, if we're going into spoiler zone, that's when you talk about Fight Club, what it's about, you know? But you did say spoiler free, and
Okay.
don't think this counts as a spoiler if we talk about Penguin.
No.
I don't know. It's early. So yeah, I'll do a quick recap for anyone who doesn't know, or maybe it's been a while. Fight Club is a movie. Yeah, there you go. Fight Club. It is.
Great summary.
Sorry. Fight Club is a movie about an insomniac office worker who befriends a soap salesman and then accidentally forms a terrorist cult.
That's one way to put it. It is one way to put it.
It's an oversimplification of events, but sure.
That's me being as vague as possible about the ins and outs. But yeah, that's...
So the moral of the story is, kids, don't trust soap makers. They'll make you build a terrorist cult. Just saying.
I think that's where we can jump into spoilers a little bit.
Great.
I hope so.
Because I can feel...
Yeah.
Yeah, I can feel Josh really, really wanting to talk about, like, the last 10 minutes of this movie.
Which, coincidentally, is the first 5 minutes of the movie. Right.
Correct.
As well. Most films that do this just mess things up, right? When they, like, start and then, like, the whole film's a flashback, then get current thing. But something like this film, you've forgotten it starts like that because it makes no sense when it starts, right? You know, It starts he's in some sort of high-end building with a gun in his mouth. And then before you realise it's the same scene, you're like, oh yeah, that's how this is going. I forgot about that.
It has that beautiful, impossible shot where the camera goes under the floor into a truck and then outside.
Yeah.
Which is just textbook David Fincher CGI showing off.
Emphasis on the showing off. Yeah.
Yeah, like, this movie, it's maybe not as worst for it, but it's still full of those just unnecessarily complicated shots that require so much digital effect added on later. Yeah. And I respect him so much for that. I think Gone Girl's the worst one, with, like, the CGI gummy bear.
This one's just a penguin, no gummy bears. Yeah, brought it back to the penguin, people.
There's that shot in Gone Girl where she throws a gummy bear at Ben Affleck's head, but because he wanted it to bounce perfectly, it's a CGI gummy bear.
It's kind of like that bit in, you know, Blade, when didn't they have to, like, CGI open the guy's eyes because he just refused to?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Do you not know about this? Oh,
no.
Which actor was it? Hold up. In Blade. Was it Blade or Blade 2? Maybe in Blade 2, to be fair.
Wesley Snipes?
I think, it was Wesley Snipes. There's, like, a scene where he's, like, lying down with his eyes closed, and then he, like, opens them. But he just refused to open his eyes for that scene. So they've, in the film, his eyes get CGI opened, which is why it looks really dodgy.
Yeah, it's in Blade Trinity.
I was going to guarantee that. Everything bad from Blade happens in Blade Trinity.
But yeah, it's such a...
Oh wait, on the table,
Yeah,
when he's
yeah,
meant
Yeah.
to have died.
yeah.
Oh, see,
That's the one.
that's a different. Oh, by the way, guys, spoilers for Blade. Apparently, that's
I
a
could give it Blade
different
Trinity.
ending. What was the ending I saw, and I saw the original ending, the alternate ending. The ending I saw was when Blade actually turns into Dracula. Sorry, Dracula's turned into Blade, so Blade turns back to Dracula. Really confusing.
I never watched Trinity, so
Yeah,
I'll take your word for it.
the alternative ending was Blade actually died, and Ryan Reynolds and Jessica Biel's character, Hannibal and Abigail, they become werewolf hunters. Yeah,
Huh.
really trippy. Don't
Do
get
you know-
into it.
Do you know what movie has a really good ending though?
Fight Club.
Are you gonna say Fight Club?
Fight Club.
Is it a good ending though? It's an
Oh,
ending.
We can talk about this because
It's an
I have
ending.
so many thoughts on the like closing shot of this movie.
Okay.
yeah. I mean, first of all, so a quick spoiler recap, right? For people that
Yeah.
have seen it but still might be a while. The film is about an insomniac, IKEA addicted Edward Norton who likes to hug Meatloaf's birdseed breasts, who then ends up becoming friends with Brad Pitt, but is actually not Brad Pitt in his own mind. And then
Yep.
they blow up half a city so they erase credit card debt after
And they
punching
do-
people.
And they
Sums
do
it up,
Helena
right?
Bonham
Yes.
Carter every now and then.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, actually, Josh, scary thing is, I was at work with Nathan, and I just realised, literally 2 weeks ago, I think it was Nathan, that
Mhm.
Robert was played by Meatloaf.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Ty Tundra was like, was Meatloaf in that movie? I was like, yeah, yes, Meatloaf is in that movie.
It's a random piece of information because I don't know if anyone else noticed. Like the fat suit he uses in the film is a bit weird in terms of like as fat suits go. Found out they used birdseed for the fat suit.
Ah.
Oh.
Yeah, bird seeds for for his breasts.
Okay.
Meatloaf literally has birdseed breasts in that film. So there you go.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
The more you know. Need that animation just saying the more you know.
I think yeah, you talk about the ultimate goal of they're not Fight Club at that point, are they? They are
No, they start as Fight Club and then they become the
Project Mayhem.
Project
Yeah.
Mayhem, thank you. I would say Project Midnight there, but I think that's just because the name of our show.
It's minute. And then they spray
Yeah.
paint a big smiley face on a building.
Yeah. So
Cool.
their ultimate goal becomes domestic terrorism to erase credit card debt. And I think that's where the reputation of this film starts to get a little iffy.
yeah.
Also, I'd like to point out that Jared Leto was involved in the big smiley face and then went on to play the quote-unquote Joker.
It did, and it looked, yeah, That's My Face does look a lot like the kind of thing his Joker would spray paint on a
Yes.
building before blowing it up.
Jared
He
Leto.
didn't just spray paint it. He also did some fires for the eyes. Let's just,
Set
Yeah.
an apartment on fire. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's is where, as much as I love this movie, it becomes, for the context we're discussing it, through the Eyes on Midnight screening, it becomes a little dodgy, because this is the poster child for the film bro complete misunderstanding of a satire movie. In fact, on Letterboxd here, I've just stumbled on a review. This movie has become such a film boy cliche that it's easy to forget how great it really is.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
That completely sums up my thoughts on Fight Club.
I think that's the thing. Everyone that sees Fight Club watches it once. Like anyone that's like, oh yeah, I'm a huge movie buff, ha ha ha. They'll watch Fight Club once, forget what it's actually about, and just like, yeah, Brad Pitt fights Edward Norton, and then they shoot some guy, and that guy shoots himself. Not important, I guess, but then they'll forget that everything that it's about, and won't
Yeah.
watch it again because it's
It's a warning about like extremism and falling into like dangerous ideologies.
yeah.
And how a lot of these dangerous ideologies have like noble intentions on paper, but I mean they do a lot of crimes
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think a good way to sum up their ideal is the scene with Brad Pitt holding the empty revolver to the poor like gas station guy, right?
Yeah.
It's like the whole bit. It's like you think he's going to shoot him or whatnot, but really he's just trying to encourage him to chase his dreams by the threat of murder,
Yeah.
which is unique.
Also, nearly committed group homicide plus suicide in the car to make people realize
True.
what they really wanted to do before they died.
True. But
Yeah.
that scene's another one of these questions, right? Where like after like several times watching it, it's still confusing because in that scene, Brad Pitt's the one driving the car and he's shouting and arguing with Ed Norton's character, right?
Yep.
But there's two normal guys in the back. Well, I say normal, put quotation marks around that. What are they seeing there? Are they seeing Edward Norton shouting at nothing, or is he having this whole thing in his head? Is there anyone actually driving a car, and is that why it crashes?
Yeah, there's such a question. So everyone just accepts that Edward Norton is Tyler Durden.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So did they all just know he's schizophrenic and are just okay with it?
I think a lot of it, because a lot of the scenes you get with Helena Bonham Carter, I can't remember names of characters here, but is that she gets confused when he starts like get all schizophrenic around her, right? So I'm not sure.
Yeah, because she's almost accepted that Tyler's the real personality, and the narrator persona is like his fake one, which is an interesting concept because it is the other way around, but he's more confident to be himself as the made-up persona.
I don't even think she believes he's Tyler Durden, because if you remember when they first met, it was in all those groups, and he had used a fake name for every single one.
Yeah.
So she just accepted, right, sure, you're Tyler Durden, I guess. Because remember, I think, if I remember right, the question when he's on the phone here is like, who do you think I am? Not who am I, it's who do you think I am? And it's like, fucking Tyler Durden. Yeah, you're Tyler Durden. So even she doesn't know who the hell he is. All she knows is he gets slightly weird, and she's probably that used to bad relationships. She just doesn't give a shit and just walks out. It's just, the guy starts freaking out about their night together. She's just like, all right, deuces. And she just pieces out.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting, like, when he's coming to terms with the fact that he is both personas. The amount of times he'll go to another like leader of a fight club and ask if they've seen Tyler Durden, and they'll just lean in and be like, "Is this a test?" Or like, so he must be like, it's almost inbuilt, this like failsafe in the Tyler Durden persona.
Yeah, and like they kind of touch on it closer to that as well, when he's coming to terms with things like at points you were me, at points you thought you were with me type thing. It's like got some flashbacks where he's saying what earlier in the film Brad Pitt had said, and then other points where just it wasn't there. But then that also kind of gets messed with because at the end when he's going to the police and stuff and they're about to cut off his balls, he's saying that as Tyler Durden he'd say all this. So do they just think he's kind of that almost messiahically insane type of character, or do they think that he is kind of got this all planned out and he's an actual genius and not schizophrenic? Like, they don't answer these questions, and then it just makes the next viewing so much more confusing.
Which is the kind of beauty of, like I said, I have a lot of thoughts on that, like, closing shot, essentially, is it just ends. Like,
yeah.
Like, the quote-unquote bad guys win.
Mm-hmm.
The Where's My Mind plays in one of the best needle drops in cinema history, and then the movie's just over. Like, we don't have a chance now to reevaluate any of this. You were just done.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I literally just popped in my head because of the question between the guys in the car and, like, do people just accept it? Maybe, like, he has an inner circle, Edward Norton, Tyler Durden thing. I can't remember Edward Norton's character's name.
He doesn't have one.
Yeah, he's the narrator.
Alright, so maybe Tyler Durden, maybe he's told his inner circle that he's schizophrenic, because at the start, it's just, there's not really, as like at the start of the movie, there's like the major differences. There's like the stuff that Tyler does, like Edward Norton's character's really nowhere near him, so it'd be okay. But as it starts to develop, these guys have been with Tyler since pretty much the beginning, and they're not right in the head either. They're part of an underground club where they go and beat the living hell out of each other. There's something not right in their own head. Sure, it's an escapism from real life, but fine. Maybe his inner circle knows he's schizophrenic and they're just good with it. So they're like, hey, you say some weird stuff, but it's just your other guy. You're really Tyler Durden. Maybe?
Maybe. It reminds me a lot of American Psycho.
Yes.
The idea
That's
that, like,
confusing as well.
yeah, another a great example of a
Do you know how
same
that
kind
ends?
of that same era of like bizarre like critiques of capitalism and stuff. But in that same vein, he's a literal psychopath.
Yep.
But no one really notices because his behaviors aren't that different to everyone else's in that area. I think that's gonna the whole idea of starting the Fight Club is because like this is a broken man who like needs to feel something, but it's not that outrageous to think that just your average everyday office worker wants to just beat the crap out of someone. So he just goes unnoticed.
So, and also the two people that kind of opposed both Tyler and the narrator, very different reactions, but still both maniacal. As Tyler Durden, Tyler Durden's character actually bled on a guy's face to make him, like, let him beat the living crap out of him, then bled on his face to let him keep a building, and then Jared Leto's character got the living hell beat out of him, like lost teeth and everything.
As well, that Jared Leto getting beat up scene, that isn't the original scene they had for that, because the first one they filmed was deemed too gruesome for cinema at the time.
Oh, damn.
Whoa. Wait, that's the clean version?
That's the less gruesome version of that beating, yeah.
Wow.
That scene is so hard to watch.
Is it bad that I want to see the original version?
Yeah, kinda.
I feel bad for Jared Leto as an actor, because this whole movie, he just gets made fun of for being too pretty.
Yeah.
And then loses all his teeth, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I feel like that's not even the last time Jared Leto played a character that everyone hated because he was too pretty. Like, I feel like
Jared Leto is just too pretty, though. That's the problem.
I don't know, when Morbius comes out, I'll literally have seen him in like 3 movies. Oh wait, no. Once I finish Zack Snyder's cut, I'll have seen him in 4.
It's true, he is. Is he not only supposed to be in that movie for like
the nightmare sequence?
Minutes? Yeah. Maybe I've seen it by the time this goes out, and I'll not say anything about it because how am I gonna go back in the past and record again?
I've watched half of it. It's hard to watch. It's so long.
What is your review of Justice League? It's hard to watch.
It's just so long. Like, it's 4 hours. Sorry, we got wildly off topic here.
Let's jump back to Fight Club, Let's not
Jared Leto.
Because I think something that's weird to point out is because we were just talking about how they all like to beat people up. But I think we're forgetting that the club didn't start because people wanted to beat other people up, but it's because people wanted to get beaten up.
Sure,
which is the weird part. This is fundamentally really just a group of masochists when you think about it, which makes the whole anti-socialism, anarchism, destroy credit card thing so much more confusing again, because it somehow makes a cut of you like getting beaten up. Okay, great. Let's follow me like I'm some sort of god.
I think it's almost
inside my house.
I think it's almost to do with like these are all like your base level like cubicle office workers. So they've just become like bored and numb of life in general. So the idea of getting hurt gives them like something to feel, and then slowly they can indoctrinate this ideology of like, that your boss and his boss are like keeping you down, and their credit card companies have got you in debt and whatever. Like, we can rewrite the whole system, and you don't need to feel this way anymore.
Yeah. Also, after the first initial beating you take, you then new members get inducted, and then you get to beat them up. So you actually eventually, as you go on and on and on, you start taking back power, as it was. I'd say that with quotations. And like so, you start literally from the bottom. You're lying on the floor in a pool of your own blood, in severe pain, and then you take over and take back what you maybe feel is rightfully yours. Like, destroy a credit card company, you're no longer in debt. You're now the master of your own money and your own life.
Yeah, because even the credit card thing, it's very clearly about the credit cards themselves. Like, it's not about the individuals that run it. It's about it's
The whole
about
system.
fixing the system itself, because they evacuate the buildings,
They're actually
which is such an important detail.
Yeah.
The buildings were empty when they blew them up, so all that really changed was everyone's credit went back to zero.
Yeah. They're not eco-terrorists. There's an actual word, because everything they did was for a good purpose. Like, the art sculpture they destroyed was designed by someone. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Like the big ass stone, and then that had to go through a video store. Like, everything
right before Bob gets shot.
Yeah, everything they did was all for like a good cause, like erase credit card debt, erase like all this other stuff. So they were doing good, but they're going about it a really wrong way.
Yeah, it's like left-wing extremity. Which is something we don't see very often, but it's still absolutely a real threat to society. It's like it's like base level communism.
Yeah, they'll do crazy as hell stuff, but eventually, people will be cleared of their credit card debt, or this will happen or this will happen. The country will have to rethink. And even the scene in the bathroom, they get a high up person in a company, and Tyler gives that whole "we are these people," which is true. It's saying don't screw with little people. Is that the whole point of the movie?
See, that's where my issue, maybe not with the film itself, comes in, but again, the reputation around the film is, I think, a lot of people stop there. They stop at like I've got I've collected some issues of Empire magazine over the years, and there's a great one where they got their readers to rank the greatest movie characters of all time, and Tyler Durden is shockingly high.
Oh wow!
Because I think a lot of people see him as like an anti-hero.
Yeah.
When really, he's an ideological villain. Like, he is a bad guy. He's like Killmonger from Black Panther. He's got the right ideas, but he's the bad guy.
Terrible message,
Yeah. It's the same thing that happened with Joker.
Like,
I can see that film. The Joaquin Phoenix Joker. I think
people picking up the wrong message,
Yeah, that movie's getting a lot of the same buzz Fight Club got, in the way that a lot of people are taking it as a legitimate ideology and not as a warning about using these kind of ideals for your ideology.
Of course they're dumb, because, one mistake and people are dead.
That's it, yeah. And Fight Club shows that perfectly, because like the most innocent character gets brutally killed by the police.
This thing with Fight Club as well is that could be more just in your face a lot of time, because it's so Tyler Durden is such a bad person fundamentally that the main character refuses to believe that he is that person. That's how in the face it is, and people just can't quite seem to wrap their minds around that, which is a bit ridiculous.
He understands he doesn't exist, but he's so bad he still tries to shoot him in the face.
Yeah, and he does shoot himself in the face,
And then he shoots himself in the face to kill Tyler.
Was it? I always took that as he was trying to, like, I know it's dumb as anything, my explanation is dumb as anything, but it made sense to me. It was he was trying to erase that part of his brain that created Tyler.
I think
Maybe.
it was kind of like kind of like the idea of, in his mind, if he shot himself, I don't think he meant to not die necessarily. Like, obviously he manages to shoot his jaw or whatever.
Yeah.
But
I
I think
it
his
went through his
goal in
ear
there
or
was,
something.
by killing himself, he'd killed Tyler, and then this whole thing. But then it brings up the other question in the film, which just cuts away Susan's question. He then stands there with his arm around Helena Bonham Carter and just watches as these buildings explode. So did he kill Tyler, or did he just accept that he was that person? It's the other thing.
Yeah, is this new? Well, is this new sort of third persona? It's like a mix of the two.
Yeah.
Because Project Mayhem's not going to go anywhere just because Tyler's gone. You know.
I mean, but is Tyler gone though?
It wouldn't though, because that's it. And they make that clear as well. That idea of Tyler's not necessarily needed for this mayhem thing, because they say in the film when I think it's when Ed Norton's talking to the police, basically being like, there's nationwide groups that are capable of running independently from centered leadership type idea, which also kind of rotates back to the idea of it's a really messed up cult, isn't it?
Yeah, which I feel like was a unique concept in 1999, and now is just really terrifyingly true.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we've seen the aftermath of these types of groups spring up across, particularly the States, in recent years.
Especially his job helped him.
Yeah.
His whole job was to go to like different airplane crash sites and see what the issue was. Yeah, great. And while he's in that city, they has to stay for a couple of days. He's building like mass cult followings and kissing people's hands and burning them with fucking lye and stuff. That scene still to this day is mental to me. I know it's meant to be, but it's just forever. You know those scenes in movies that just stick in your head? That scene, horrible.
It's so like intense and visceral, and there's that like extreme close up off his hand.
Yeah, burning, like actually bubbling with like
bubbling. Yeah,
awful, man.
But then it tells you the idea that he just actually in reality stood there and did that to himself whilst having a debate in his mind, which is almost worse to think about than the actual scene itself. Like psychological self-torture.
I do have a slight interesting piece of information. And it's funny, Josh, you don't... Helen Bonham Carter's character is called Marla Singer. Interesting. Don't know if you know, Josh, did you know that the guys that made Fight Club could have got sued?
For which reason? Because I wouldn't be surprised if there was multiple.
It was because of Marla Singer. Now, so what happened was, when you make a movie, you have to make sure that if you've got a character that's maybe not described in the most flattering of ways, you've got to make sure there's no one in the world that's made in America. So in America, that is named that name. You know, if there's loads of people, no problem, because you can essentially just, if someone phones up, it's like, yeah, it's not you. Do you know how many Marla Singers there is in America? 1. She lives in Illinois. And literally, when the movie came out, her friends went to see it and they phoned her like, hey, there's a person called Marla Singer in this movie, and she's described as Helena Bonham Carter's character. So she got lawyers and everything, and they had to make a massive payout so they didn't get sued.
That's not the reason I would have expected
exactly
Fight Club to be controversial.
Yeah, there's literally one Marla Singer in the continental US.
So, right, this is just a completely random thing here. I know we said we wouldn't, but I googled some things about this penguin.
Okay.
I don't care about any of the symbolism, but this is the best thing, I think, my new favourite part of this movie. In this scene with the penguin, you know the penguin's icy breath? That's Leonardo DiCaprio's breath from the scene in the Titanic. They CGI'd that in.
Okay.
That's all. Yeah, that's that whole point there.
Okay, I take it back. That is the worst unnecessary use of CGI David Fincher's ever done. It is no longer the gummy bear. It's now the penguin's breath in Fight Club.
Yeah. But you know what? All these little CGI things just come together to make such a great film, and we should all listen to the film's morals. That's what we've been talking about, right? I can't forget.
I don't think you've been paying attention.
So I'm not to go blow up banks, right?
No.
No.
Okay. What about make soap? Can I do that?
You can make some just not explosive soap.
See,
Yeah.
here's the thing, right? What if I do it by accident?
Slightly getting concerned now.
Still knowing all this knowledge of soap.
Yeah, how?
It gets bored on flights and reads.
Or has he been Tyler for longer than he met Tyler?
That's the other question. Because there's clearly been subtleties of Tyler. Because I don't know. I'm guessing you guys know, but like, there's several times before that plane scene where Tyler flashes just very briefly on the screen. I think there's one point
He's
in the office.
spliced between the frames.
Yeah, like the porno pics,
Like the porn in the kids' films, yeah.
Yeah, but so there's clearly he's like it's implementing almost the idea that he's coming into this and that he's manifesting at the very least in the narrator's brain. But how long has it been going on for? That's a good question.
Yeah, there's definitely like an idea that he's been like an actual soap salesman for years before he ever acknowledged the existence of this other person.
Yeah, and then again in the airport scene, like this is another one of those ones. In the airport scene when he's like waiting on his luggage and whatnot, you see in the background Tyler Durden gets in a car, drives away. Then some guy goes, "Oh, that's my car." Did the narrator steal a car there? Because then later when the narrator asks Tyler where the car is, his response is just like, "What car?"
Yeah, Tyler doesn't have a car.
So did Ed Norton's character actually steal a car there?
It's likely, yeah.
It's just all real. See what I mean? A bit more questions.
But that's it. That's what makes this movie fun, I think, is that every time I watch it, I'm like, something in my reading changes slightly. Like, I feel like I understand it differently.
Yeah. Because like you'll see a bit and they'll be like, that I can explain why this thing's happening because in the film later on it does this, blah blah blah. But then it makes you think, but then how is this going? And then how's this doing this? And then I feel like for every answered question there's two more unanswered ones that just come up. Yeah. Which to be fair, I don't even know if it's done on purpose. It might have been like this is one of those films where David Fincher could have got almost away with slightly lazy writing and whatnot, but not had to worry about it too much because of that idea of there's enough mystery behind it where you don't know what's maybe a slight oversight or mistake because you're just going to overthink every detail.
Yeah, that's the impressive bit to me though is there are still like hundreds of different little questions to ask about the plot of Fight Club, even though the whole thing is spelled out to you all the time through constant narration.
Yeah.
Like, if there's one thing you can legitimately criticize this movie for, and I think everyone will agree, this movie is full of, like, clunky narration.
Yeah, but
I adore it in points. The whole bit where he's explaining Tyler's job, and they've CGI'd in, like, actual cigarette burns into the digital film. Like, that's amazing. But then, like, yeah, there are a lot of points where the film just grinds to a halt, and then, well, I mean, he's called the narrator, so it makes sense, but, like, he just re-explains the scene you've just watched.
But then it's a question of, is that on purpose?
I think it is, yeah.
Because, so, when you think about a lot of the re-explanation stuff, a lot of it is quite often, you've got Ed Norton's character describing what's happened after a very Tyler Durden-centered moment, right? Like, for example, like after like the first couple of Fight Clubs, when you see, Brad Pitt as Tyler Durden doing its like the original speech of the first rule of Fight Club, and then we go into this like almost montagey monologue bit where Ed Norton is explaining what Fight Club's becoming and whatnot. So it's really weird. Quite often that the very Tyler focused moments are followed up with the narration. Kind of like it's almost from the point showing that these are two separate things, but they're very interconnected. How they kind of go hand in hand.
It ties them back together again.
Yeah.
Like a hint to the third act reveal.
It's just it's so obvious after the first watch that some of it, like they're the same person stuff, but it's still so confusing. And are we reading into this film too much at points? Because that's what it can feel like sometimes.
Right, I've got a question for both of you though. Well, we'll start with Ty. I think I know the answer, but would you recommend Fight Club?
Yes, 100% yes. It's a great movie.
Josh, would you recommend Fight Club?
To anyone without a weak stomach, yeah. And also to people that didn't believe the Joker was a good film in the sense that we should follow it, then yeah, you should watch it. But if you're a
Yeah.
lunatic, no.
Yeah, I'm with. I think this is a film. It's one of those you see on every like must see film list, and I think it's definitely accurate. Everyone that's like interested in the history of film, you need to see Fight Club. It's just the definitive must.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But going into what Josh just said, is this a midnight screening?
Well, I think we should quickly define what we mean by midnight screening here before answering
Yeah.
that question.
Do you mean to take that?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So my eyes, midnight screening is a phrase I came up with. Of the idea of the midnight movie, which is a term in horror of a film that only ever gets screened at midnight for like, your Friday the 13th sequels and whatever, your real messed up fun horror movies. So midnight screening in my eyes is one of those films you sit down with like a group of friends to watch. It'd be like your 18,000th rewatch, or you're sitting with someone that's never seen it and you want to induct them into the cult of it all. So it's a very broad but also very specific. When you see it. I feel. So I'll answer that question first. Is Fight Club a midnight screening? I'll be slightly controversial because this is a definitive cult classic, but I would say no. For that reason of how easily misunderstood this movie has been, I feel like you almost run the risk of misinterpreting the film by screening it in that way.
Definitely. I think I'll go ahead and just quickly answer as well because I fully agree that no, it isn't. And I think for me, a big part of something to be a midnight screening, it has to be almost have less of the think factor that this film has. It's midnight, you're hanging out with your mates type thing. You want to watch a film that's good, yes, or in most cases, not all, but
we'll get to that.
Yeah, but also that you don't have to like ponder over for the next 4 hours because you can't go to sleep after it. And I think the thing with this film is that it's not an easy watch film. It's not something you can just sit down and just be like, you know what, I just want to watch Fight Club. You have to be in a very specific mindset for it. And I think to do that, to watch what is a film fundamentally about an insane schizophrenic insomniac going against the government in a way that people have misunderstood for 20 odd years, thinking that they should support at midnight with your mates, probably not a good shout.
I was going to say no. I was going to say no until you described it, Nathan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
Ooh.
Because every midnight screening I've done, I've had a half an hour drive, at least half hour drive, back to my house, which would give me ample opportunity to sit there and go, okay, let's mellow on what we just saw. Let's get tonight's sleep, and then tomorrow, fresh heads, let's have a proper discussion about what the heck we just saw.
Yeah.
So for that perspective, I'm going to say yes, it is a midnight screening.
Yeah, it does bring up a good point actually of the. Yeah, it can be quite fun to meet up the day after a midnight screening and discuss.
Yeah, you got half an hour to like quietness and go, so sleep, yeah, sweet. And then go home, you sleep, and then you wake up and go, okay, what the hell did I just see last night?
So we're all in agreement. Fight Club is a definite must-see movie.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
We're more torn on the midnight screening aspect. So it is 2-1. Unfortunately, Fight Club does not make the midnight screening Hall of Fame. Oh, we should do a tier list once we've done the first season.
Also, can I point out how ironic it is that the film about an insomniac who doesn't sleep should not be watched that late at night?
Yeah. I didn't think we needed to point out the irony, but sure.
That's great, yeah.
Yeah, Josh, we can point out the irony.
So yes, Fight Club, absolutely definitive must-see cult classic. More on the fence whether or not it fits our very, very particular criteria. Thank you all for coming with us on this journey to discuss Fight Club. I think it's one of collectively our favourite films, if I'm not overstepping my boundary there.
It's up there, yeah.
It's top 15.
Next week we've got something a little bit different.
Little?
Do you want to give a little teaser to
Yeah.
what we've got coming up?
Gah! That was a quote.
Is that your impression of every
Or
character?
if you
in that
want, you
movie?
want a bit more of one, I could. Or a "Gah," you know. It's all very similar kind of sound effects, to be honest.
Josh, I know that like the listeners won't hear it, but I would appreciate that was so much funnier because your Discord cut out. So we said
That's great. That's great. No, it was a very sustained, monotone, kind of like growly scream.
So do stay tuned to the channel or Spotify page to find out what on earth we were just talking about when the next episode comes out. As always, if you're watching us on YouTube, like, subscribe, send us a comment, whatever. Go check out the other fun stuff I'm doing. Links for our socials be in the description below. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter, or at least follow me on Twitter. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, there'll be a link to the Spotify page for the show, and vice versa. If you're listening on Spotify, there will be a link to my YouTube channel, which hosts these, as well as all my hot take opinions on recent pop culture. Oh, sorry, thank you to our editor as well. Thanks to IzPrebuilt on YouTube. I'll leave his links as well. He does gaming tutorials that are way better than anything I make. So if you're into video games, check him out. We don't have like an outro, do we?
No.
I don't think so.
You know, I make one. I can describe, every time I'll describe what my bird's doing for the outro, right? Right now, he's chewing on used lolly wrappers whilst throwing a pen around my room. This has been Midnight Screening.
There you have it, folks.